If you happen to be learning local storage with your HTML web pages, I wanted to show you what happens if you move your file to a different path. I'm going to open up this page right here, which is localstorage.html. It's on my desktop. Double click it. I'm going to open it up in Firefox. Here we've got a place to type in the storage key. Here we've got a place to type in the storage value, a Save It button. In this area in the middle with a black background is where every time we click the Save It button, our key value pair is going to be shown in that section of the web page. We also have a place here to remove a particular storage key, and when you remove a particular storage key, it removes the value as well. It removes the entire key value pair, and that's what clicking this Remove One button will do. Now if you've got 5 different or however many different key value pairs in this black section here, this button will remove every single one of them. So you have the choice to remove one list item or all. Let me show you an example. Let's say the storage key is 1 and the value is apples. Save it. We got apples. Let's do a second one. Let's say 2 is the second key, and let's say, why not, oranges. Let's create another storage key, and bananas. Okay, so we have bananas, oranges, and apples. We have saved 3 things. We refresh the page, they're still there. We close the page and reopen the page. Okay, so local storage is working. They are saving even when you close out of your browser. But watch what happens when I move the path. Now, the path to this file is somewhere else. Double click on that file. Where's our local storage? It seems to have disappeared. Well, it hasn't disappeared. We just ruined your path. And basically that's the only thing you broke. You didn't break your code, you just broke your path. So now when we put it back where it was and click it, there's our local storage. And this is important because if you do like me and you start off with a project and you have it up on your desktop, you might move folders in folders to make room on your desktop. You might move it from your desktop to your documents. Whatever the case may be, once you change the location, you have changed the path to your local storage. So don't freak out, you didn't break your code, you just moved the path, and so therefore don't move your files around if you're using local storage and you don't want to lose your data. And then if you forget where you originally had your file, well, yeah. So anyway, that's just letting you know how that works. Now let's look at the code so you can see how, well, before we look at the code, let's show you the difference between these two removing buttons. I want to remove 1, so I have to pick a storage key, 3, 2, or 1. Let's get rid of 2. That's the key. Hit remove 1 and the whole list item, key and value, disappears. If I want to remove all, that gets rid of everything. So now I have to, for example purposes, give you something else. We're going to have something really random here. So you don't have to just use numbers for the key, you can use text as well. And then the values or whatever you want. Alright, so now we have 3 key value pairs in local storage. I want to go with Notepad++. And let's take a look at the code. As you can see, with any web page, you have your opening and closing HTML tag. You also have a head and you also have a body. Let's take a look at what's in our head. Open up our head. In our head, we have title, it says storage, and you can see storage right up here in the browser tab. We have style tag, and we have a script tag. The style tag is going to enclose our CSS styles. Let's open up the style tag. So the opening style tag is here on line 4 and the closing is a little ways down on line 32. Let's check out the styles. For the list item on our page, which are these discs right here, these dots to the left, we have the list style type set to disk. For the table, we have two styles in here, but only one of them is being accessed because I misspelled the second style. The first style for table is a border is set to thick blue solid. As you can see, the outermost border is blue. That's for the table. And I Z'd out border collapse because I wanted to show you how border collapse style works. If you have border collapse set to collapse, you will not see the blue border, which is for the table, and the purple border, which is for the table data cells. Watch what happens when I use border collapse set to collapse on the table. See? So now you only see the purple border, which is surrounding the table data cells. You no longer see the table's border. So I don't want that. I want to see my table's border. So I'm going to misspell that just in case you ever want to use it and you want to use border collapse as a style. It shows you how it works. All right, so basically what this means is that's what it means. It means I don't even have that secondary style at all. Because some people don't like to have that extra border, and if you don't want it, you can use border collapse. Okay, for my table data cell, I have a padding set to 5 pixels and a border set to thick purple solid. I've got 3 IDs for elements. I have, and I guess I could do it like this for readability. If I put a space between each of these lines, it makes it a little easier to read. It's not necessary for the code to work, it's just easier to explain in a video. So for these 3 IDs, one ID is ID storage key text, which represents this element. The second one is ID storage data text, which represents this element, and ID remove key text, which represents this element. Those 3 page elements are given these styles. Background color is set to yellow, padding is set to 5 pixels, margin is set to 5 pixels, and width is set to 120 pixels. That gives each of these areas a yellow background, the same padding, the same margin, and the same width. So you get a consistent look across the page. Now they share those styles, the background, color, padding, margin, and width. They don't have any unique styles though. They all share those same styles. On the other hand, when we get to the buttons have their own IDs and they share styles, but they also have their own unique styles as well. So for the shared styles of the buttons, the button with the ID save button, the button with the ID remove button, and the button with the ID clear button, they all share a width set to 100%, a padding set to 5 pixels, a border set to 10 pixels gray outset, and a font weight set to bold, and a color set to white. So each of these buttons here share those styles, but they also have their own unique styles. For the button with the ID of save button, we gave it a background color of green. For the button that has the ID of remove button, we gave it a background color of red. For the button that has an ID of clear button, we gave that a background color of blue. The last thing that gets a style is the center portion that actually saves our local storage. That element has an ID of local storage data output. And the style that we gave that element, styles actually, background color is set to black, font size is set to 25 pixels, and color is set to white. And that's this section right here. Every time we create a key value pair and it goes in here, that's that. All right, so that's all the styles. Let's close up. Let's close up the style tag. We're done looking at our CSS, cascading style sheet stuff. Let's look at our JavaScript, and that's everything in the script tags. And that goes from line 45 all the way down to line 111. We have 4 functions inside of our JavaScript tags. Let's look at the first function. The first function is called function add storage, and that goes from line 47 to 57. Here's the name of the function. Function add storage. There's no parameters, so we have an empty parentheses. And we have 2 statements inside of this function. 2 things happen first before our if-else condition. The first statement is var key equals document.getElementById, and in parentheses we have the ID storage key text in quotes, and then we end that statement with a semicolon. Well, the element on the page that has the ID of storage key text is this one. So whatever is typed in here, whatever the user types in here before they click the Save It button to call this add storage function, it goes in this variable called key. The second thing that happens is this statement. Var data equals document.getElementById, in parentheses we have the ID storage data text. So whatever gets typed into this, which has the ID of storage data text, gets put into the variable called data. Now we have an if condition. We want to check if the browser we're using even utilizes local storage. So the condition is if local storage in window. So as long as you're using an updated browser that uses local storage, this will be true. And as long as this is true, what happens inside its curly braces will execute. And that is local storage.setItem, and in parentheses, key.value, comma, data.value. So the value of what you typed in here for the key and what you typed in here for the value will be set with the statement local storage.setItem, parentheses, key.value, comma, data.value. Now, if you're using an old browser that doesn't deal with local storage, then this condition will be false. If this condition is false, then the stuff that's in the curly braces that follows will be ignored. All this will be ignored, and it'll jump down to the else statement. In that case, this will run. Window.alert, parentheses, the string, no local storage in window. There's the end of the else. So outside of this if-else scenario, we have one final statement for this function, and that's document.location.reload, parentheses true, semicolon. You got your ending curly brace for the whole function called add storage right there. So we've done the whole add storage function. Let's move on to the next function. And this is what happens when you click the Save It button. It calls the add storage function. So let's get away from this. Actually, we could just close it. Let's move on to the next function called remove storage. Remove storage is a little bit similar in how it works. It starts here, it ends in line 77. So we start off with the name of the function, function remove storage. There's no parameters, it's an empty parameter list, so it's an empty parentheses. We have a single statement that starts the ball. Var key equals document.getElementById, and in parentheses we have the ID remove key text. So now we're pointing to this element down here, where if you want to remove a single list item, you have to put a single key here. In this case, if you wanted to remove this middle one, you would have to type in ASDF because that's the key. You'd have to type it in here before you click remove one. This remove one button calls this remove storage function that we're going over right now. So you have to take whatever data is input into this section, and that information will be put into this variable key. Now we have a couple of if conditions. We want to make sure the browser you're using actually utilizes local storage, and all the newer browsers do. The old ones don't. So the first if condition is if local storage in window. If that's true, then it goes on to the next statement, if local storage.length is greater than 0, which means if you already have something set in local storage, there's something more than 0 in there. Then, if both of those conditions are true, what's inside of the inner if condition will execute. And that's this statement right here. Local storage, because your browser uses local storage, and you actually have something to remove, local storage dot remove item, and in parentheses, we're going to have key dot value. Close your inner if with this curly brace. Close your outer if with this curly brace. So now all of the if conditions are satisfied. If you're using an old browser and this is not true, all of this inside gets ignored and it jumps to this else, which will execute what's in its curly braces. So you're using an old browser that doesn't deal with local storage. You go down here and window.alert, parentheses the string, no local storage in window. That'll pop up instead. So now our if and else are taken care of. The last statement in the remove storage function is this one, similar to the function preceding. Document.location.reload, parentheses true. So now we're done with the remove storage function. We've done everything that the red remove button calls when you click it. So let's close that up. Let's look at this function here called clear storage. The clear storage function is called when you hit the blue remove all button. So you have the name of the function, function clear storage. There's nothing in the parentheses, no parameters. You got the same if questions to make sure that you're using a browser that deals with local storage. So the outer if is wanting to know if local storage in window. So that if that's true, that it's going to find out if local storage.length is greater than 0. If that's true, then our main statement to clear all of the storage is this one, local storage.clear. It's a very powerful statement. You don't want to use this if you only want to delete part of local storage. You don't want to use this. This clears everything out. You want to use something like this, the one we did before it. But if you want to clear everything out, this is the way to go. So then you close the parenthesis, this curly brace for the inner if. You close the curly brace for the outer if. Again, if you're using a browser that does not utilize your local storage at all, then none of this will work, and it'll jump down to the else, which will give us this. Window.alert, parentheses, the string, no local storage in window. There's the end of the else block. These are the ends of the if blocks. And after that is done, we have the single statement, which, like the preceding functions, document.location.reload, parentheses true, semicolon. There's the end of the clear function, which again, the blue button, remove all, calls this clear function, the clear storage function. So we're done with that. Let's look at one final function we have that has to do with every time the window loads. When you close out of the browser and the window loads to pull up all the good stuff, here we have it. This is called window.onload equals function, nothing in the parentheses. The first statement in this onload function is this, var local HTML equals an empty string. This is what's going to give us this, it's going to give us this set of list items that each time you go in here, you can add something else. You can keep tacking on and tacking on and tacking on, making the list as long as you want. So we start off with it having no value at all. Then we have a for loop. And this is the condition for the for loop. This is actually the beginning of the for loop. For, in parentheses, var I equals 0. So the indexer or incrementer or iteration value is I. It starts off as 0. As long as I is less than local storage.length, you will increment I. I starts off as 0 when there's nothing in here. Each time you add something here, I becomes 1, then it becomes 2, then it becomes 3, and so on and so forth, which keeps letting you add more stuff to it. Inside of the for loop block, we take that local HTML variable, which began as nothing, an empty string, and using this plus equal symbol, we're going to keep on concatenating to it. We're going to keep adding to it. So the first iteration of the loop, we start off with an opening list item tag. So you have your opening list item tag enclosed in double quotes. Then you concatenate something to that list item tag with a plus symbol. What are you going to concatenate? Well, the first thing you're going to concatenate after that opening list item tag is this, local storage.key with I in parentheses. So the very first key that you type in here, the value of it, is going to go here. What are you going to concatenate after that? See, so basically, if I show you piece by piece, the opening list item tag is going to give us this disk. I can't highlight it though. I thought I could, but I can't. Gives us this little disk, this little dot. This local storage.key parentheses I gives us this, which is what you typed in here. With the plus sign, we're going to concatenate something else, and that's this string in double quotes. It's in double quotes, we have a space, a colon, and another space. That's what you see right here. We're going to concatenate something to that. What we concatenate to that is all of this. Local storage.get item, and in parentheses, local storage.key parentheses I. Now we're going to, all of this highlighted is the value portion. Based on using the key, we're going to get item, which is going to be the value. So here we see the value. That's what we typed in here in this box. This is the value. This is how you get it. The key value pair. This portion is the key. This is the part that separates the two, and this is the value. We're going to concatenate something else. So we're going to use the plus symbol to concatenate to the value. And this is what we're going to concatenate. An ending list item tag. So all of this is what we're going to concatenate. All of this that's in the double quotes. The ending list item, and then a horizontal rule. This green line underneath the list item is a horizontal rule. So that's the HR tag. In the opening part of the HR tag, because a horizontal rule doesn't have an opening tag and a closing tag. It has one tag, but it uses this / greater than symbol to be the opening and closing tag all in one, like that. So HR style equals border : thin green solid. So we have one style here. Since there's only one style, the whole style goes in the single quotes. The first style is border set to thin green solid. What if I wanted a second style? What if I wanted, well, I don't know, what else could I have for a horizontal rule? I can't think of another style right off the top of my head. Maybe I can give it a crazy margin. Right now, you see it goes pretty much from left to right. Let me give it a crazy margin just to show you what a secondary style would be. Margin, let's give it a really awful margin, 20 pixels. So now you see there's two styles. All of it is contained in the single quote, and each single style ends with the semicolon. So border is set to thin green solid, semicolon. Margin is set to 20 pixels, semicolon. So therefore we have two styles set to the horizontal rule. So let me refresh this and refresh this. You see how it's changed? It's given us more space here around the horizontal rule, which, you know, looks kind of nice. Maybe I'll just leave that. Okay, so here is the actual ending, closing curly brace for the for loop. that goes from here to here, the body of the for loop. After the for loop, we have one final statement for our window unload function, and it's this. Document.getElement by ID, local storage data output is in parentheses and quotes, and that's what the black background gets. That's this part of the page. It's got the ID of local storage data output. So the document.getElement by ID, local storage data output, dot inner HTML means all of this inner HTML is going to be assigned to whatever the value of local HTML is, which we set the value of local HTML when we did all this junk up here. All of this junk in the for loop. Every time we iterated through to another one and another one and another one, this makes sure that when the page loads, we grab all that information. Alright, so then we have our ending curly brace for the entire window onload function. That's our fourth and final function in our JavaScript. Alright, so since we are done looking at the four functions, we can move on now to the body. In our script tags, you see function add storage, function remove storage, function clear storage, and window.onload functions. Let's close up the script. So now we're done with our head. Our head had a title, it had CSS styles, and it had JavaScripts in it. So now we're done with our head. Let's close our head, and let's check out the body. Our body goes from line 110 all the way down to the end, 152. So you get your ending body tag and your ending HTML, which finishes the entire page. Now we're going to look at the elements of the web page itself. The first thing that we see is our H1 tags, which gives us our header. So if I move back up here, here's our header. Web Storage Review 11/1/2017, Web Storage Review 11/1/2017. This is the date that I created this, which doesn't matter, but it just gives me a reference point to how long I've been playing around off and on with this particular thing. Okay, then we have a table. Our table goes from line 113 all the way to line 151. Again, the end of the web page. In our table, we've got a number of rows. Here's our first table row in our table. Here's the first table row up here. You see create storage key and the yellow place to type in, and the second table data cell has the create storage value with a place to type in, and the third table data cell has a button in it. And all of that is enclosed in a TR tag, which stands for table row. Here's our first table data cell. You can see the text create storage key followed by this input type equals text, ID equals storage key text. Close up the TD, go to the next TD. TD, create storage value. Now we're in the middle one. First we looked at this one, now we're looking at the middle one. Create storage value followed by input type equals text, ID equals storage data text. Close up your TD. Now let's go to the third TD. This time we're talking about this one with the button. Input type equals button, ID equals save button, value equals save it. As you can see here, save it, that's the value. On click equals add storage. We're calling the add storage function that I went through earlier, and return false. Alright, so there's our third TD table data cell in our first table row. There's the ending of that table row. Let's look at the next table row. Here's the opening TR tag. This is real simple. In our second table row, as indicated by this part right here, you have your TD with a call span set to 3. You see here we've got 3 columns, storage key, storage value, and the save it button. Well, here we only have 1 table data cell in this row, but we want it to stretch across 3 columns. So when we set call span equal to 3, that does just that. The ID of this table data cell is set to local storage data output. And you close up your table row, and that's all you got for that table row. Let's move down a little bit so you can see the other ones. Here's the 3rd table row. Move on down so you can see all the code. In this 3rd table row, here's our first table data cell. That's this section right here, where it says remove a storage key, and then this place to type the storage key. So that table data cell has a call span set to 2, because we want to only take up 2 columns for this. We've got the text remove storage key, as you can see right here, followed by input type equals text, ID equals remove key text. Close up that table data cell, go to the 2nd table data cell. This table data cell is where we've got our remove one button. Input type equals button, ID equals remove button, value equals remove one, as you can see on the face of the button, that's the value. The on-click event, for when you click this, on-click event calls the remove storage function that we read. And the 2nd statement after that is return false. So there's two things happen in the on-click. Calling the remove storage function and saying return false. Close up that table data cell that holds that button. Close up that table row tag. So now we're done with that 3rd row. Let's move down to the 4th row in the table. Here's the 4th table row. First thing you see is the table data cell, again with a call span set to 2 so that it spans across 2 columns. And all that table data cell has is some text inside. Click only if you want to remove all key value pairs. That table data cell is followed by another table data cell which has a button inside. Input type equals button, ID equals clear button, value equals remove all. As you can see on the face of this button, remove all. The on click for this button is going to call the clear storage button and return false. So you close that table data cell, you close that table row, you close the table, close the body, close the HTML. That's everything in the body. So let's go up here, close our body, and now you see we are where we started. I've went over every piece of the HTML. I've went over what's in the head tag, which is the title, the style, and the script. And I've went over everything in the body, which was a header, a table, all the table rows in the table, all the table data cells inside of each table row, all the way to the end. And again, don't forget when you're playing around with local storage, if you have your file here and then you move it somewhere else and then you try to access it the way you thought it was going to be, you're going to flip out because you're going to go, oh my God, I saved my whole week's worth of journal entries, and you're going to think your code broke. But your code didn't break. You just moved it where it didn't belong and you forgot. But if you remember and keep it wherever you want it, you won't deal with that. You won't freak out.